All right, welcome back to the channel, everyone. And today we're talking about the fascinating history of the 401k plan, okay? And the full purpose behind the 401k retirement plan and why pretty much it's become the go-to solution for all businesses, for all people working and employees alike. But first and foremost, let me give you guys some background. Let's start with the background, okay? Here's what you need to understand. The 401k plan was introduced as part of the Revenue Act, okay, back in 1978, and then it actually took effect in 1980. But here's the thing, initially, 401k was not designed to be a widespread retirement plan like we use it today. Instead, ultimately, it was a tax strategy aimed primarily at executives and CEOs and key employees, pretty much allowing them to be able to defer, just set aside and not worry about a portion of their compensation without paying the taxes immediately. Guys, that's huge. Now, this provision was part of the IRC, the Internal Revenue Code, Section 401k. It's nothing more than a tax code, all right, which allows employees to defer income on tax-free basis until withdrawal, usually at retirement. However, here's the key. Here's the key. In the early days, the 401k was rarely used by everyday people. People that rank and file, they call it rank and file workers. That changed, in the early 1980s when benefit consultant, someone named Ted Bena, who pretty much created the 401k, recognized the potential of the 401k provision to help companies offer tax advantage retirement strategies to their employees. So they say, hey, we can use this as a tax retirement for employees, not just the executives. Now, his work pretty much made it very popular, and the 401k plan, how it is, became that as we know it today. But by the mid 1980s, here's where they started shifting. In the mid 1980s, many businesses started shifting away from the traditional defined benefit pension plans. Okay, so they went from pensions to 401k. Why? Very simple. Because pension plans carried a significant financial risk and long term liability for the employers. Pretty much, a pension's guaranteed that, a specific amount is going to be paid for someone who put time working there. And the company has to bear the full burden of the retirement risk. So if you're retired for 25 years, they got to pay for 25 years. All right. Now with the 401ks, that shift of everything went from the employers paying it to the employees. So the employer said, look, we're not worrying about it. So employers contribute a certain amount matching the funds, but they're not responsible for the whole investment performance. So when that shift happened, pretty much it reduced the company's future financial obligations. So they're not paying for 15, 20, 25 years down the road for old employees. And additionally, contributions that employers make to the 401k plan are tax deductible under the Internal Revenue Code Section 404. 401, they use 404, meaning that companies can deduct the money they contribute, that they match you, by lowering their overall tax burden. So if they owe $1 million, they can put money in and they can lower that million because they use that 404. All right, now here's some things you got to understand. Very related. You got the 401k plan has something called the 402g. That limits how much employees can defer each year, all right, to prevent excessive sheltering. So you can't put too much money in because then it's going to mess them up. Then you have the IRC 415, which caps the total combined employer and employee contributions to the plan annually. Then you have the IRC 72T, which imposes penalties for early withdrawals, okay, before age 59 and a half, right? Ensuring that the funds are primarily used for retirement. You just can't use it whenever you want. Now, why is this used? From a business perspective, the 401k is a powerful tool, and it was originally designed to allow CEOs and executives to defer all the income that they have, lowering that immediate taxable income and the company's tax liability. 401k was never a retirement; it was ultimately a tax code to lower companies' tax liabilities. And then over the time, they expanded it to you guys. to the employees. All right, allowing businesses to offer competitive benefits. So yeah, we're going to give you this so you have a benefits without having the cost of pensions on the back end. So that's huge. They said, look, we're going to give you this, take everything off of us. But the employer contributions are deductible as business expenses. That's what the 401k is. This means that a business owner, they could reduce taxable income simply by contributing and matching your 401k plan, which is huge on the back end, which is a major incentive, which is why most companies offer you guys 401ks. Plain and simple. It helps them lower taxes. Now, if you want to know, they got some statistics, you got to understand how it really works. Now, the 401k has grown in 1978. All right. The 401k was added to that tax code. But by 1981, when Tabina, the one who kind of created everything, his promotion led it to an increased adoption. So around 1985, 1986, it went from barely anyone to about 20% of private sector workers that were covered from pensions. So I'm sorry, it was 80% pensions, 20% 401k. But by 1995, it pretty much switched over. All right. So then by 1995, it grew to over $300 billion. By the year 2000, pension coverage went from 80% down to 15%, while the 401k participation surged. Now you fast forward pretty much to 2020, and over 60 million Americans right now have active 401k plans holding assets exceeding over 7 trillion. So we got $7 trillion inside 401ks. That's huge to understand. So to summarize in conclusion, it's way more than a retirement plan, your 401k. It was originally designed as a tax advantage strategy for businesses and executives. That's it. I always tell people if it's in the tax code, someone's saving somewhere. Over time, it evolved to be the most popular retirement savings for everyday folks and a retirement vehicle, which reduce employers' risk at the end of the day. So it's a win-win for them. They're saving on taxes and they're reducing their risk. And then for everyday employees, instead of having, they still got a pension, but now guess what? They're funding it on their own. So it kind of shifted everything. So I tell people this: look, I'm not saying 401ks are bad. You just need to know the history and how it works and understand what it was initially designed for, which was tax advantage strategies, which was tax deduction for business owners, and it was a way to eliminate having to pay everyone's pensions. Because here's the thing most folks don't know. When Social Security and pensions and all these things kind of took place, life expectancy was 61. Think about it. Life expectancy was 61, retirement was 65. So most people never even got to retirement. So most people never needed a pension. So a company said, yeah, we're going to provide a pension. And all right, Joe Small's going to live, maybe to 64, 65, 66. We got to pay for a year or two. And then boom, everything's good. It's a good incentive. But it went from life expectancy to 61 to now people are living in the 80s. So you went to barely anyone needed a pension to everyone needed it for like 20, 25 years. Companies couldn't afford that. So when 401ks came into play to say, hey, here's a way to eliminate pensions, keep the employees happy, but for us, the employer, we can use it as a taxation to help us minimize taxes for deductions. Me as the CEO, it could eliminate how much I'm spending. And folks, that is what really made the 401k history change and made it to what it is today. So if that was great information, make sure you guys like, follow, and subscribe. You're here with Earl, the Money Coach, and I'm breaking down how you could really change your life investing with what I call the financial GPS, how to grow, protect, and save your money. And I'll see you on the next video.